All right. Hopefully there's a title slide that you all can see now. And Hannah, could you give me a confirmation about that? Great. Well, thanks again, everybody. I'm really grateful for your time this evening. This is one of the best responses that we've had to an invitation to attend one of these prospective volunteer information sessions. So I'm really excited to be able to share this project with you and invite you to participate this spring. My name is Josh. I am the Conservation Director at Birds Connect Seattle. I have had the privilege of managing the Seattle Bird Collision Monitoring Project for since 2021, and very grateful that you're here to learn about it tonight. Let's get advance. All right, so here's our agenda tonight. Very quickly, just one slide going to give you an intro to Birds Connect Seattle. Then we're going to talk about the context that we find ourselves in with respect to bird population declines and the contribution of bird window collisions potentially to that. Then I'll tell you about the Seattle Bird Collision Monitoring Project generally, and then we'll talk about the spring 2026 season specifically. And then we'll stop there, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So first, I mean, many of you probably know Birds Connect Seattle. We're an environmental conservation organization that advocates and organizes for cities where people and birds thrive. We are the oldest incorporated environmental conservation nonprofit in Washington State. Our urban conservation priorities today are protecting and enhancing urban habitat. We were recently successful in protecting Magnuson Park wetlands from inappropriate nearby development of pickleball courts, for example. We are also committed to reducing urban hazards to birds and engaging people in conservation right where they live. And this collision monitoring project is really related to these last two bullet points here. And to speak a little bit about the current situation and context that we find ourselves in, there was a landmark paper that was published in Science in 2019 that looked at bird population trajectories since the 1970s. And they found that over that 50-year time span, approximately 1 in 4 birds had disappeared from the skies over North America. A staggering decrease in overall bird population abundance. And we have some long-term monitoring evidence locally that is consistent with declining bird abundance and diversity. Birds Connect Seattle has been operating the Neighborhood Bird Project. It's a community science initiative that is counting birds in Seattle green spaces. We've been doing it since 1994, and we have a report coming out next month that will share the results of an analysis we did of the data from 2005 to 2020. And what we found over that time span is that species richness, or the number of different species we detect in a given year at our sites, has dropped by 18%. The average total number of birds that we count on surveys has dropped by 20%, and more than half of all species that we were able to assess have downward count trajectories. And all of this is consistent with declining bird abundance here in Seattle. And we know that human actions have a significant impact on birds and are driving bird population decline. Habitat loss and climate change are big ones. Habitat loss has historically been the most significant threat to birds. This is considered an indirect cause. This is not, habitat loss doesn't necessarily directly kill a bird, but it does reduce the ability of the landscape to support birds. But when we think about the direct human-related causes that kill birds, these are things that have really clear causes and effect, like oil spills or cat predation or poisonings or bird window collisions. And so among the direct causes of human-related bird mortality, window collisions are among the worst. And I've pulled up this image of some oil spill impacts on the bottom from Deepwater Horizon. That was estimated to have killed about 1 million birds when that occurred. Our early estimate of bird window collision mortality across North America was 1 billion birds per year. That's 1,000 times more than were killed in the Deepwater Horizon spill. And this happens every year. It's not just a single event. But new evidence is suggesting that the actual scale of mortality might be 2 billion per year or higher. So again, this is a staggering amount of death and also pain and suffering. A lot of birds are pretty terribly injured by colliding with windows. And here's just a few examples of some local victims of bird window collisions that have been reported to us or that we found through our monitoring project. We've documented more than 80 species that have been colliding with windows in Seattle from a diverse range of different bird groups, thrushes, sparrows, and raptors, unfortunately, are also vulnerable. There's a peregrine falcon that hit a sky bridge at the Swedish Cherry Hill campus. You can see a little bit of blood around its eye that suggests some head trauma. Um, and thanks to the hard work and data collection of bird collision volunteers with this project, we've been able to crunch some numbers, and we have an estimate that 82,000 fatal collision events occur just at Seattle homes every year. So this is not including collision events at high rises or at campuses like UW or at libraries or low rise buildings. So just at residences where people live. So tens of thousands of birds die every year. Um, and with that scale of mortality, sometimes people wonder, why don't we see this? Why don't we see more dead birds? Why aren't they piling up under our windows? And there's a few reasons. The first is that we're not looking, and so that's one reason. We're just not in the habit of searching for dead or injured birds. A second reason is that they fall into hard to access places. And what this photo is showing, the red square on the photo on the left is showing the general location of a fern. And under that fern, which you can see on the photo on the right, there was a dead orange crowned warbler that had struck a window at Seattle University. And um, you typically would have no business walking back in that little patch of landscaping. And so, unless you were purposely going out to either do some gardening or investigate this little habitat patch, this event would have gone unnoticed. So, they fall in difficult to access places. They're also really hard to see. And there is a dead bird in this photo. And I'm going to give you a minute, or a few seconds. See if you can spot the bird in this photo.
I cannot see it.
All right, I'm going to reveal the answer. It is a Rufus hummingbird that is just right next to the wall there. And I put it there. I actually put the bird there. We were doing a carcass persistence study where we wanted to see how long carcasses will remain around our study buildings before a scavenger removes them from our search areas. And even knowing exactly where it was and documenting it when I would return, it was really hard for me to relocate it. Um, the way that birds' plumage can blend into the background is amazing, and it can be really challenging to find them. Another reason is we have a lot of scavengers in our urban areas, everything from slugs and snails to rats and raccoons and crows. And mentioned our carcass persistence studies. And one thing that we did was try to capture video evidence of who our scavengers were and if they leave any evidence behind. So when our scavengers are dragging away bird carcasses, are we going to find feathers or body parts or anything, or are they just going to carry it off whole cloth? And so here's a crow that has encountered a northern flicker carcass, and it flew off with the entire carcass. It did not leave a single feather behind. So if you had come to this site just after that crow flew off, you would not know that there had been a flicker carcass there in any way. We've also seen these gray squirrels take carcasses and leave no trace. So we don't have video footage of this one, but the arrow is pointing to an Anna's hummingbird carcass, and you can see the gray squirrel in the next frame. The Anna's hummingbird is gone, and the squirrel has its back coyly away from the camera, or face coyly away from the camera. But I think I know what it's doing. I think it's eating that Anna's hummingbird. Um, Here's an image. I don't have a video of this one either. We do have video. I don't know why it's not working, but a raccoon that carries off one of these carcasses. And here is a rat carrying off a swallow or a sparrow carcass. And that left no trace either. So that's just going to show that our community of scavengers makes quick and efficient work of the collisions that are occurring around our buildings, which is one of the reasons why we don't see them. And then finally, even if for all of the carcasses that are missed by scavengers, birds are slight. They are small, and predominantly collision victims are songbirds. And we have such a mild climate that fungi and bacteria are always at work. And in a week's time, the little body of a songbird can be reduced to feather and bone that scatters in the wind. So the quick decomposition is the final thing that just makes it unlikely that these things last in the environment very long for us to notice them. And altogether, that leads to a problem. We don't see dead birds. This problem of bird window collisions is invisible. And so we don't see window collisions as a conservation concern typically. Uh, there are mass fatality events that occasionally occur in some places, like in Chicago in October 2023. There was a mass mortality event where 1,000 birds struck a single building and died in one night. And those types of events get a lot of media attention and are truly horrific. Um, we have never in Seattle, as far as I know, have experienced one of those mass collision events. Our problem is low frequency but constant collisions that are occurring, which overall add up to a pretty devastating problem for us. And so that's what the Seattle Bird Collision Monitoring Project is attempting to solve, is to help us make collisions visible. And it does that by raising awareness of collisions, the risks, the features, the architectural features of buildings that contribute to collision risk, and solutions for reducing that risk among participants like you. And our volunteers also help us document and photograph collision evidence. We use this in communications with our community and with elected officials as we're advocating for policies for bird safe cities. The data are very useful and have allowed us to estimate collision rates at various structure types and overall annual mortality in Seattle, for example. We've also had success working with building managers where we have discovered hotspots to help them install collision deterrents so that they can reduce their collisions at their buildings. And many of the people who have volunteered in this project have then gone on to participate in advocacy, meeting with council members, um, asking them to support bird safe building policies. And that's really something that makes me proud to see. And ultimately, what we're trying to do here, we don't want to just collect data. We want to make our city safer for birds. So just a few quick facts about the Seattle Bird Collision Monitoring Project. This was launched in 2021. We are entering our 14th season, and we have so far completed 6,600 surveys at around 200 buildings with the help of 200 plus volunteers. And all told, they have reported 348 bits of evidence of potential collisions around these buildings. Um, I will say that that is a pretty low detection rate. 348 collision reports over 6,600 surveys. That's about one report in every 25 surveys. And I bring that up just as a to say that most of the time when we are out searching, we are not finding anything. So that has been some folks have found that boring, but it's really important. The zeros are important data points, and so it's not worth your time. It is worth your time to search, even if you don't find anything. So just putting that out there. There are two ways that folks can participate in the project. There's what we call a study route, and these are buildings that we have selected. Sometimes they're public buildings, sometimes they're private buildings, where volunteers will commit to a weekly shift. So you'll pick them Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and every Monday you'll go out and you will conduct surveys along the route. You may be partnered to complete your surveys, and those folks will attend an on-site training to make sure that they know the route and to practice the protocol and meet their survey partners if they have one. And we'll also hand over all the materials you'll need to conduct surveys. Uh, but there's also an easier way to participate, and that's right from the comfort of your own home. And volunteers who participate from home will commit to just 1 week of daily surveys. It can be any week within our study window, which starts April 15th and ends May 19th. So you could pick any week in there to do your surveys. You will set your search area. You'll tell us what makes sense for you to look around your house to search for dead or injured birds. Even if you have never experienced a bird window collision, participating is really helpful for us. And in fact, I think that our at-home data set is unique in bird window collision research world. Most researchers are studying downtown routes or public buildings that have known collision problems, and not many have done studies on private residences in cities. So that is a really interesting contribution that we can make. And I really encourage you, if you have the ability this season to participate from home, that is really helpful for us. And the only um, there's no on-site training or in-person training for at-home volunteers. The only thing that we'll need you to do is to fill out what we call our building and surrounds characteristic form. And this is where you'll tell us how many stories your building has, um, how long it takes you to walk around your building, about how many windows, and some other features that help us characterize your building to understand and potentially identify correlates of collision risk across different buildings. And just to kind of very quickly explain what it actually looks like to conduct a collision survey, it's very simple in concept. We limit our searching to an area that is just 6 feet out from the exterior wall of your building. And this guy demonstrating an area about 6 feet with his two arms outstretched. That's where you will focus your searches. And then we literally just walk around the buildings and scan the ground and sift through vegetation and look at window panes too for evidence of like dust prints or feathers stuck to windows or blood smears, for example. Um, and we walk around in one direction and then we turn around and we walk back and search again in the opposite direction. So we call each one of those searches a pass. We do 2 passes around the building, and then that is it. So we just walk slowly around the building 2 times and search for evidence of bird window collisions. There is some data that we need to collect, including the date, the names of the people who are participating, whether the time is important. And then again, after you collect that data, when you start, you just walk around your building until you get to the end. Some buildings, very few buildings, we can actually circumnavigate all the way. So in this case, they're going to turn around here, search in the other direction. They're going to fill out the rest of their data sheet, and their survey is complete. For spring 2026 specifically, we have 3 study routes available. One at Seattle University in the First Hill neighborhood. There are 3 buildings on this route. That's the Senegal Center for Science and Innovation. That building is the largest one. That's the building furthest to the right. That takes about 15 minutes to survey. The Casey Atrium is a little dome glassy structure behind one of the buildings. It's got the little half circle on the left. It only takes about 5 minutes to survey. And the Student Center, the building on the bottom of the screenshot here, that takes about 8 minutes to survey. All told, completing the surveys and walking between these buildings, that's about a mile. It's paved. There's some light hills, nothing too crazy. And there is some vegetation to sift through at some of the buildings, which can make it a little bit more time consuming and complex. All of these buildings have known collision problems, so it is likely that collisions will be detected here. And when collisions are detected, it can add a little bit of time to surveys to document them and remove them from the survey area. But assuming that no collisions are detected, this route takes 45 to an hour to complete. We also have a route. A route is just a single building at the Seattle Asian Art Museum, which is in Volunteer Park in Capitol Hill. Again, this is a known hotspot. It is just a single building. It's not that big of a search area. It's outlined in blue here, just the backside of the building. Um, it would be less than a quarter mile total of walking. The substrate is grass. There's not really a lot of vegetation that you'd have to sift through. The main challenge, the reason why we don't have other buildings on this route is because there are no other buildings nearby that would really make sense for us to survey. So a potential frustration or consideration is you're traveling all the way to Volunteer Park potentially for one single building that might take 10 minutes to survey. So if that doesn't sound like a good time to you, this might not be the route for you. But this one is also an exciting opportunity. We worked with the Seattle Asian Art Museum to install or to encourage them to install Bird Divert, which is an ultraviolet based collision deterrent product. They installed that last year. And we have really good pre-installation data on bird window collisions here. And so we have the opportunity to now collect post-installation data and to get some estimates on the efficacy of this particular treatment. Like in the wild, a lot of the efficacy studies are done in laboratory or artificial conditions. So that's a really exciting thing that we're able to do at this site. And our last study route is downtown. This is a new route for us. This is the Seattle Convention Center Summit. I am proposing a full tour of the block. That would be around a half mile both ways. Yeah, quarter mile each way. So a total of a half mile walking to complete two passes around this building. We have not tested this route yet, and so I'm not entirely sure of the complexity of it, but we are willing to iterate as we go. If folks have seen this building, it is really glassy. There is a lot of glass. There's also some polished metal that could be reflective. I did, when I was walking around there the other day, see some dust prints on the windows that suggest that birds are colliding, but not sure entirely what to expect at this building. But this is all paved, minimal vegetation. So in theory, the survey should be fairly simple to conduct. And for at-home monitors, I mentioned you set your own survey area. So if it only makes sense for you to monitor one set of windows, one bank of windows just to the right of your door, that can be your survey area. You can go out and scan it in the morning. It takes you 1 minute. We do not encourage you, if you live in shared buildings, don't walk onto other people's property without their permission. If you have your own home and you can only access a small portion of your building, that's totally fine too. So you'll just let us know with that building and surrounds characteristic form how large your survey area is and where exactly it is. But other than that, you are in control of what the survey area looks like for at-home monitoring. And I mentioned too why I think the at-home monitoring is interesting from a filling in knowledge gaps perspective, but also because most collisions are occurring. I mean, they're not occurring at skyscrapers. They're occurring at lower buildings. And most of Seattle is low buildings. I've called out the residential zones in blue here. And estimates from across the country suggest that 44% of collisions are happening at buildings that are 1 to 3 stories, 56% at low rises, less than 1% at high rises. We still want to refine our numbers, but if I had to plug in Seattle specific values into here, it would probably be 90% 1 to 3 stories and 10% 4 to 11 stories. So the home story is a really important one. And what do we actually mean by evidence of a collision? So I mentioned that we are limiting our searches to just an area that's within 6 feet of our study building. So if you find a dead bird within that area, that is evidence of a collision. Also an injured bird or bird parts or a feather pile, and we have specific numbers of feathers that would define those things. We also encourage folks to look at their windows as best they can to look for bird feathers stuck to them or dust prints or blood, or some other bit of physical evidence that a bird might leave behind. And then for at-home volunteers too, hearing or seeing a collision happen as you are home living your life, that can also be evidence of a collision that you can report. Just a couple more considerations. Mentioned that we don't find what we're looking for most of the time, so that can be unsatisfying to some. And then it can be emotional and disturbing to find dead or injured birds. I remember when we were setting this project up, we didn't know what we would find, and I thought that I would be excited when I finally found a dead bird, but that was not the case. It was really sad, and so I acknowledge that. And if this is not the project for you, um, either just based on the photos that you've seen tonight, or if you get started and realize that it's not something that you're into, that's totally okay. Um, but just want to make sure that that's something that you consider as you are thinking about participating. All participants will receive a virtual orientation, so that'll be coming up on April 1st. If you do decide to fully join or officially join the project, you'll get a link to that. That is required for new volunteers. It is virtual, and so it'll be recorded. So it is not necessarily mandatory that you attend on the first, though it's more interesting and engaging for me if people are present. But that will be recorded and sent to all the volunteers that can watch it at their convenience. We also have a comprehensive volunteer manual that we'll give you access to, so you can have that for reference if you have questions about the protocol or documenting collisions or anything else. We also will create a Slack channel for this season of the collision monitoring project, and that's just a way for us to keep in touch and to keep engaged and to build a little community as we are out doing our individual surveys. We don't all have a chance to get together, but it is nice to chit chat and learn what other people are finding as they're doing their surveys. If folks sign up to participate on a study route, those folks will also receive materials from us, everything they need to complete surveys, bags, data sheets, gloves, and so on. At-home monitors, if you want any of these materials, feel free. There's really nothing that you probably don't already have at home, but let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in. A few things that participants will need. Plan to communicate regularly with us. There's a lot of moving parts, and we like to know when surveys are being completed. If surveys can't be completed, we like to try to find some backup to go do them. So communicate with us over email, text, or Slack. It's nice for folks to have a camera, smartphone, or tablet so they can photograph specimens should they find them. A willingness to handle dead or injured birds, and we will talk at the volunteer orientation how to do that safely, and a willingness to promptly enter field data into our online form. It's pretty simple. At-home participants, that commitment is at least 1 week of daily monitoring. You don't have to limit yourself to 1 week, but a week is the minimum. If you do decide to do more than a week, the weeks do not need to be consecutive. So you could do a week at the start of the period and a week at the end. You could do the whole period. And study participants, that commitment is a weekly shift. We usually encourage completing those shifts between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. On your scheduled shift, but we're flexible. We know that you all have lives, and if you need to go out at 6 p.m. and complete your survey, that's totally fine. We do ask that it be daylight, so you have enough light to actually um, see reasonably well. Our important dates and next steps. So if this sounds interesting to you and you want to join the project for spring 2026, feel free to sign up. And I'm going to send a link and follow-up email tomorrow, but you don't need to wait. If you go to the Seattle Bird Collision Monitoring Project page on our website, there are links to pick your shifts and study routes or at-home monitoring preferences. The volunteer orientation is going to be on April 1st, like I mentioned. That's 7 o'clock to 8:30 p.m. We're recording that, so if you can't make that, that's not a deal breaker. We can send you the recording. You can watch it when you're able. April 4th will be our study route on-site trainings. So if you sign up for Seattle Asian Art Museum, Seattle University, or downtown, um, we will need to meet you there and show you the route and get you training materials and make sure you feel confident to complete your study surveys. Those trainings will only take about an hour, and I will send the specific times in the follow-up email tomorrow. If you are unable to make a on-site training, we again can be flexible and find alternate times to get you the materials and make sure you know the route. The collision monitoring season actually begins on April 15th, ends on May 29th, and we always close the season with a volunteer social and a season end report out. And that's usually a couple of weeks after the end of the season. So we'll announce that date shortly. Then just a reminder that even when you are not participating in the Seattle Bird Collision Monitoring Project, if you do encounter a dead or injured bird as you are going about your daily life, you can always report that at dbird.org. This is a platform for reporting human-related bird injury and mortality that researchers use all across North America. Birds Connect Seattle manages it for the Seattle area, and it is a really helpful additional source of information about collisions and cat predation and vehicle strikes and so on. So I just want to make sure folks are aware of that. And with that, I will end and I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah, Jennifer.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, I have a question. I was trying to raise my hand. I don't know if I did. Any rate, are there any veterinary resources if one finds an injured bird?
Precious few, yes. I mean, Paws is still our local rehabber, and they're all the way up in Snohomish now.
Oh,
There are, and we have a relationship with them, and they have guidance, and we have some recorded material about what to do if you find injured birds. Unfortunately, we don't have many closer options for getting care for injured birds, which is unfortunate. I will say, though, that finding injured birds has been exceedingly rare for us. Of the 6,600 surveys we've done and nearly or more than 300 detections we've found three injured birds. So it is highly unlikely that folks will need to worry about injured bird problems.
okay. And the
Yes.
like, I don't know if I should continue or I yield the floor for someone else.
Let's keep it going real quick.
Oh, okay. When you have a dead bird, you photographed it, you've described it, then do you toss this bird?
Yeah, and again, that'll be up to you. So all native birds are protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, and it is illegal to possess them or their parts or their nests, um, unless you are handing it or delivering it to an institution with a permit to salvage dead birds. Uh, we have in the past had a salvage permit. We are no longer accepting salvaged birds through this project. So our recommendation is to remove it from the study area so that the person who's coming up the day after you to do another survey doesn't double count it. And that could be, moving it 50 feet away or 100 feet away or something. If you choose the Burke Museum, our natural history museum on the UW campus, they are an accredited salvage institution and they have a huge ornithology collection and they're always accepting specimens so long as there's sufficient data that accompanies the specimen, date, time, contact information, those kinds of things, all the things that we would ask you to collect anyway. So if you choose, you could elect to deliver it to the Burke Museum yourself. It's a pretty simple process and can tell you about that. And if it is not safe to leave it in or to move it off site or to take it to the Burke, then King County's recommendation is to double bag it and put it in the landfill trash.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I see Anisha, you've got your hand up.
Hello there.
Hi.
I had a couple of questions. I think you already did say it, but I just wanted to confirm my understanding. So the three study sites that you have selected, that is based on the fact that they have reported that they have reported significant bird collisions in the past?
We didn't know that when we started. We
Huh.
chose them based on what we suspected would be features of collision risk.
Large windows and
Exactly,
such.
yeah.
Hmm.
And we also are choosing locations where we either want to learn about a specific structure type or like land use type. We have done commercial districts in the past, like we were at Market Street in Ballard for last year. We did
Hmm.
the commercial strip in Columbia City. So we're trying to get information about different structure types and neighborhood types so that we can
Hmm.
compare collision rates. It is not ideal to non-randomly select buildings and to only
Hmm.
select buildings that you think are going to be high risk.
Hmm.
So that's something that we're aware of. But most of the buildings that we have studied for our studying for our survey routes are high risk buildings.
Okay. And just one more question. I have two more questions, but I'll just keep it at one. Um, uh, have there been policy changes as a result of these last 5 years of surveys in Seattle?
Our big success so far has been with the Seattle Asian Art Museum, and was really happy that they took our data. They took
Hmm.
our concerns and recommendations and got the money and funds and to do the installation themselves. That was
Mm,
really wonderful to see. We have had meetings with all of our council members, with our former mayor. We are actively engaged in a campaign to try to get bird safe building policies and bird safe building standards on the books in Seattle.
mhm,
It is hard to get
Okay,
attention
okay.
of our council members,
mm,
and this has not been a priority for them. But we've had we've done some good awareness raising and education, and
mhm.
we're going to get there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, Josh, I think you're up next. Josh P&W.
Thank you. Couple questions too. I'll try to keep it short. Thanks a lot for that, Josh. I really appreciate that. Do you like if we do the home surveys, like, is there like a good number of buildings like up near like a grocery store, a bunch, kind of a lot like that would be helpful, like two or three, or like you said, just you do your next door place, but is there like a kind of a rough number that you prefer of buildings in a home survey?
If it's just, I mean, one, just your own home
Okay.
is perfect. If there are additional
Really?
buildings,
Okay.
yeah, and hopefully we have a handful of people who can join us in home surveys. I would love to see 50 total homes participate this season. I think that would be
Okay.
a really great number. Um, if there are additional buildings that you're curious about and want to fold into the home study, that's also fine. We've had people who did the at-home version at the Western Washington University up in Bellingham. You just fill out the same
Okay.
forms, but let us know that it's not a home, it's a institutional building or a grocery store or whatever. Um, just be careful with access, and if it is not
Yeah.
your property, make sure that you can conduct surveys from the right of way, or you get permission from folks to do
Yeah,
things.
that's so when you said home survey, you literally like I kind of think, oh, the general area, like I have a Safeway near me, a PCC, and I was like, that probably has some issues, but yeah, there would be a right of way access at least with one of those stores where I'd technically be on private property, and you don't want that unless it's your own home. You're saying,
Yeah, yeah, and I mean,
J-
if and for folks who are
okay,
in apartments and maybe you only have a balcony or not even a balcony or just a window that you look out of, like if that's your survey area, that's totally legitimate. And
okay,
we can make the corrections in the models we use to account for the number of windows that the data apply to. And so yeah, it is literally just your home is the minimum ask.
great. And then one last thing, so just that 10 feather thing, so like if we saw like three or four feathers just kind of from within that span, that's were you saying that's kind of not enough for Birds Connect to determine it was a collision? Because it could be, I don't know, predator mob and just
Exactly.
shedding them. I don't know. Like, can you just explain that little more of that 10 figure and I guess the two body parts, I think.
Yeah, and there's an element of arbitrariness to this, and I picked numbers that I've seen from other studies, but the feather piles or body parts or primaries are left behind by scavengers, and I mean we saw where they leave no trace a lot, but sometimes crows will like rip the feathers out and they'll leave feather piles. Um, but birds are constantly sloughing feathers, and little air eddies are concentrating feathers of different kinds and corners of buildings. And so um, that's just a number that we're putting out there. But in fact, if you even found 10 body feathers, but you didn't think that they really looked like they belonged to the same individual, and just it just didn't feel like it was related to some mortality event, then we would advise you not to document it.
Okay.
And really what I kind of use as a metric now is there any like soft tissue connected to the feathers still? Like does it look like this has been ripped out of a bird?
Okay.
And often with the feather piles that are from scavenging events, you'll still see some bristle attached.
Gotcha. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, of course. Hunter, are there any questions that would be helpful for me to address from chat?
I've been responding to everybody within the chat, so I think things are covered.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And I'm gonna grab the link to our project page so folks can click on that now if they'd like. So I'll drop that in the chat. So if you click onto this page, there will be an expandable item next step for volunteers. If you open that up, you'll find additional information and links for joining various survey routes or at home. Are there any other questions that I could answer for folks?
I'll jump in here. I did put it in chat. So so for a home survey, we do have some large windows. We did actually have a fatal bird strike on one of them, so we did raise these Acopian bird savers on a few of them that look like they could be very hazardous for birds. So does that confound the survey because the windows are already, I mean, there's an effort to make them bird safe.
No, that's great. And that's something that you will let us know in the form that you'll fill out
In
about
the
your house.
okay,
Yeah. We have a
got it.
question. Is there anything about your windows that makes them bird safe? You'll tell us what they are. You'll tell us what proportion of the windows that you're surveying are covered. And this is all, you'll do your best
Got
to
it.
estimate, but
Sure.
yes, you will tell us how bird safe or not your windows are.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
And that's great information to be able to look at too. Can we actually see a difference between windows that have been bird safe and not? Hopefully we do.
I have a quick question. I just went to your link and it says if you've already attended this informational session, which we all have, I think it says go ahead and sign up for a route. Is that what you're wanting us to do at this time if we would like to?
Yeah. If you're interested in one of the downtown Seattle University or Seattle Asian Art Museum, and you know that there's a good day that works for you, if you click onto one of those links, you'll get Mondays, Tuesdays, whatever. And if you further click in, you can see if there's still shifts available. Please do sign up for all 7 dates if you can. It's totally okay if you know you're going to be out of town and need to miss a shift here or there. That's not a huge deal. But it's easier for us keeping track if you just sign up for all 7 dates, and then we can work to find alternates for dates that you need later on.
Okay. So like all 7 Mondays or all 7 Wednesdays.
Exactly. Yep. And there will be an option in the form that says select all 7 dates or 6 dates. And if you just click that, it'll do it automatically for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, a
Bye,
question.
Elizabeth. Yeah.
I don't know how to use I'm on a cute tablet. I don't know how to use my hand function.
No problem.
So I just went and I clicked and I thought I was signing up for home, but now I just realized that I may have signed up for a
Root.
business and I don't want to do that. I want to do the home survey.
Okay, I will take a look in the back end and go ahead and click on the at home sign up. Go ahead and register for at home, and I will
Yeah, sorry
remember
about
your
that.
name and cancel you from.
Yeah, cancel me for being outside. Yeah.
No
So
problem.
I did this. I didn't do it last year, but I did it the year before.
Okay.
And I just did I live in a really old building and we have windows on one side and then the other side's pretty commercial. So but I noticed during the your presentation that you wanted us to walk around. So I guess that's a question for when the volunteer presentation is, but as long as I have you on.
Yeah, and it's up to you, whatever you think makes sense, and you'll let us know what the different sides of your building look like, and we also have the ability for volunteers to upload photos of each of the different sides that they're monitoring. If there is a side of your house that has no windows, you don't need to bother. That's not really useful for you or us. And if the portions of your building are just not likely to be hazardous, you can choose not to survey those.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty commercial. One side has trees, and actually I see hummingbirds and sparrows and things all the time, and the other side is on a very busy main street. So
Be surprised sometimes about the collisions that occur in those commercial areas. I was really surprised at Ballard. That was really high risk for collisions. We even had an owl strike a window down on Market Street. Yeah.
that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
For the April 1st meeting, will you be sending us out a notice for that to register?
When you sign up for your at-home or routes through our online form, you will automatically receive a link for that meeting. And
Okay.
then that system, I'm sure, will bother you with reminders a day
Okay.
or more in advance.
Thank you.
So I tried signing up for Sundays and like one of the shifts was full out of the 7. Is that okay? So I just signed up for 6 of them. Is that an issue?
Totally fine. If I'll have to do some investigation as to why somebody is, yeah, maybe there are some folks out there who aren't selecting all 7 days, but so, yeah, I would say sign up for all 6 and
Okay.
we'll sort it out later. Any other questions I can answer for folks? All right, well, I hope you all have my emails. It's joshm@birdsconnectc. And if you have any questions in the meantime, always happy to chat. So feel free to send me a message. Hannah's also helping manage the project, so she's here to help too. Jennifer, did you have another question?
Oh, just if you could put your contact information in the chat.
Oh, sure. I'll do that right now. Josh M at Birds Connect C, and all of our contact information is on our website too. If you go to the staff page, our emails and phone numbers are on there.
Perfect.
All right, well, thanks for being such a great bunch and getting us out of here a little bit early. And I'm looking forward to working with you. Thanks for being here.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.